In a world plagued by reboots, haunted by sequels, dominated by the same old shit, get ready for an original podcast that will gouge out your eyeballs and skull fuck you. Starring Ginger Josh, Adam the Hare, and introducing the immortal Frank. Hold on to your butts. It's the Game Rage Movies TV Podcast. Yes. We're back again. It's time to get down to fucking business. I feel more businessy official with this thing in my hand, but we'll get to that. Anyways, this is Game Rage Movies and TV. My name's Josh. I'm here today with Adam.
We're trying something out. We're going Lord of the Flies in this bitch. We have a problem. Actually, I feel as though it's been remedied in the last month that we have been talking over each other sometimes. So I thought, why let that proceed any further? We'll just eliminate it altogether, and we're going to do Lord of the Flies style. Have the conch in order to speak, you have to hold the conch, and everybody else has to shut the fuck up. So eventually we won't need this, but for now, this is what we will use.
Man, this is already fucking weird. Anyway, before we get started, check out all our stuff at GameRageMagazine.com. This is also the cheap plug conch as well. That's also what it's going to be used as. Now, I will say that laughter at jokes does not count. Like, you can laugh at things, and you can also, make noises, but you can't actually speak in sentences until you have the conch. That's how we should do this. And I see Adam's nodding his head in agreement. So, all right. Anyways, well, before I pass it off, let me finish the fucking cheap plug the cheap plug. You can get the official Game Rage conch at GameRageMagazine.com. You can also hear all of our podcasts there, such as All Gas No Trash, the music one, the Anime Syndicate, which has to do obviously with anime, the Buttfuck Nowhere Show, which is a podcast about whatever, the meta podcast, I guess, as you could say, the Game Rage Metacast, the CUP, Central Intelligence Podcast, Geopolitics, and current events. Also, coming out this month shortly will be Chirping from the Pine. Imminently, as a matter of fact. This week it will be coming out alongside this episode currently that you'll be listening to. You can hear it now. Chirping from the Pine, the new Game Rage shitty AM radio sports version podcast, I guess you could say. We also have movies and TV, which is, that's this one. Game Rage Wrestling. We got Panel to Panel for comics. We got Team Killing Glitchtards for video games. And we also have Without Censor, which is the highlight of the fucking network here. It is the top-notch interview podcast where we have some bangers on there. Heavy banger hitters. And just as a little preview, next week we will be recording episode number 4. And we're going to be talking to an OnlyFans girl. And no, we didn't have to pay her. It's because I know that's what everybody's wondering. So this will be a very interesting time. So stay tuned for that. And you can check it all out at GameRageMagazine.com and wherever podcasts are sold. Anyways, today we're going to talk about X-Men 97. And we're going to discuss the show. And we're going to do episodes 1 and 2. This will be similar to how we do everything basically here. It's going to be 2 episodes at a time. And we're going to talk about shit that happens in the episode, summarize it, and then give our thoughts and opinions, just like we did for Shogun and, all the other shows that we're doing on here. So with that here, I'll pass it off to Adam now so he can speak for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, shit, man. Me having some semblance of my childhood reprised with the X-Men 97 series. My God, it is a special time to be alive, to see the franchise revitalized once more. And I gotta say, this is pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I will say that, but before we get into the weeds on the episodes and the shit that happened in them, the actual animation, it's so familiar and reminiscent of that animation from the original show, but it obviously just looks to the standard of 2024. And it's crazy how they managed to give us that same feel. Like I still feel like I'm watching it on a Saturday morning or whatever, but it just looks way better. And I don't even know if it maybe looks way better. Yeah. If I go look at an old episode now, of course it looks way better. But back then, the shit that we were watching, the X-Men in actually 97, it looked basically like this to us as kids. It looked good. It looked there. We didn't see any problems with it now. So it's crazy how it just looks the same and it feels the same. And I don't know how they did that or how they captured that, but man, they did a fucking hell of a job with it. So I'm excited to get into this. And then, man, also just the storylines are scaled up to be adult storylines. Basically, it's not like the kid shit necessarily that you would expect from, X-Men. And it's almost as if they, I don't know, knew that their audience was in their fucking 30s and 40s now from the original time that the show came out. And they said, oh, well, why don't we just upscale this to that demographic as well? And I have to say, I think so far, so good.
It is rather interesting that the theme is not exactly the same as it is note for note exactly the same, but the instrumentation is just slightly different. And that's the only little nitpick that I have about it, is that it hits all the right notes, but the theme song is just a little bit off for my taste. I wish they would have I don't know if they can't get the license for that specific song to use it. I mean, they own it, so I don't understand what the deal with that is. But nonetheless, I mean, the first two episodes were great ways to start off to reintroduce the characters once more. And I'm probably going to say that the second episode is my personal favorite of the two. But for now, I guess we'll just start diving in and talking about the summarizing or recapping on the two episodes that we watched.
Yeah. So basically it starts off, this is 1 year after essentially the final episode of the original series, essentially. And we get Charles Xavier's, presumed to be dead, because at the end of the final episode, he gets taken up by I forget what the name is of the person. It's like some alien. You remember the name by any chance?
No, I don't remember the name. I just know it's like the Shi'ar people, and he's not dead. He's just in some type of astral form. I don't remember exactly how it was. He's not technically dead. I don't remember exactly. But for all intents and purposes, he is dead now. Figured or literal, I guess. Yeah, I don't know how you want to summarize it.
Yeah, well, they basically they're presuming he's dead. They're presuming that because they said, oh, we could take him because he got assassinated by what's his name, Peter or what's his name, Henry Gyrich or Gay. What do you say the guy's name? Fucking
Gyrich.
Yeah, Gyrich. Okay, so sorry. So then basically they presume he's dead, and now they're going through his I don't know, his last will and testament and all that bullshit, or they're getting to that point. So they get approved. The X-Men get approved by the UN, or which it's funny that the UN is like the head world organization and actually seems to have some kind of power or whatever. It's just funny that they made that choice to do that, because really you'd need to. It would. I think if this were to happen in reality, you'd have to be. It would be more akin to what happened in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they have to get you're getting basically allowed to exist by the government of the United States, because that's where all the power is. Nobody gives a shit about the UN or anything like that. But anyways, basically they're sanctioned. They're good to go. They're going out on missions and shit. And so they go in, they go to like this warehouse or whatever, and they save this little kid. Well, he's not a kid. He's like a teenager. Roberto da Costa. and he is a prisoner of, or going to be captured by the Friends of Humanity, the good old anti-mutant hate group that's all about human supremacy, which, you know, to be honest with you, is pretty reminiscent of the Warhammer universe in the and the fucking it's anti-xenophobia to the extreme. And so, anyways, they got a hold of some Sentinel technology, presumably by old boy Bolivar Trask, and they go on this mission. They save this kid. They bring him in, and he kind of like starts to be friends with Jubilee a little bit because they're, you know, like the same age or similar. And so you can kind of see like, oh, there's going to be like kind of something here with this. Then basically they decide, okay, because they find out, what did they find out? Did they find something out from that mission that they needed to go talk to Gyrick in jail? Because they needed to find something out, right?
Yeah. So Cyclops saves Roboito, good old boy Roboito, who is in fact one of, I think he's part of the New Mutants team, and at one point the X-Force. He's known as the mutant Sunspot. His whole power is like solar shit, but they haven't said that yet because he's still getting to know the X-Men, finding out what their deal is and all that shit. But at the very least, the hormones between Jubilee and Roboito are starting to mount, even though this is just the beginnings of their relationship. And they take him to the Charles Xavier School of the Gifted to find out, or Jubilee has him test out what his ability is. He's like, I already know, but I don't want to display that because I don't want people to know. And they introduce Magneto in this way as well. He's part of the Danger Room simulation. And boy howdy, is it good to see fucking Magneto, even though he's just a simulation at this point. And then in the midst of all this going on, Jean comes into the picture in the kitchen, and it's Gambit, Rogue, Cyclops, and Morph, who I don't like. I know he's supposed to be comedic relief, and he's somebody that diffuses situations or whatever, but god damn it, I know they're using him as a device to basically shoehorn different mutants without having to have the actual character. And he cracks jokes in every conversation. And the first joke he cracks is basically talking to Cyclops as Charles Xavier, and he's like, you little asshole. And then Jean just mentions the fact that now that the mutants are in a better place, now that humanity has kind of built a tolerance for the mutants, that, you know, maybe it's time to consider moving away from leading the X-Men and the Academy potentially to live a normal life, if that's even possible for people like them. And of course, Cyclops and Wolverine are still beefing. That hasn't changed at all. And then the X-Men eventually encounter Sunspot or Roboito at this club where the Friends of Humanity are trying to once more capture Sunspot or Roboito at this club, and then the X-Men come to the rescue once more. And then Cyclops and Storm are interrogating Gyrich because Gyrich was part of the Department of Defense, and Bolivar Trask was funded by the Department of Defense. Therefore, the Sentinels were created on government money. So he thought, or Cyclops and Storm figured that Gyrich would know where where Bolivar Trask would be, which turns out to be at the Saharan desert. And he says like a really interesting line about how, yes, the mutants have gained sympathy as a result of Charles Xavier dying. And this is just a fashionable trend that's happening, that the tolerance for mutants is only going to exist for as long as humanity doesn't see them as a threat, which will come to a head at some point once the mutants outnumber humanity. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting, because even Bolivar Trask says something of a similar vein. And Guy Ritchie assassinating Charles Xavier is almost like Lee Harvey Oswald, or rather not Lee Harvey Oswald, but the assassination of Martin Luther King, you know, for somebody trying to assimilate a group or a minority of people into the melting pot that is the United States, you know, back in the 1960s, a civil rights activist. The impact was kind of felt in a similar regard with Charles Xavier, but if you want to.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of to me, X-Men's always kind of been about racism, I guess, because it really is. And it's not racism based on color, creed, geographical location, none of that stuff. It's racism based on mutant versus non-mutant. It's powered versus normal. Well, that's probably fucking racist to say normal, but non-mutants versus mutants. And it's interesting to see how humanity is divided on this issue in the X-Men universe. They don't really know how to handle this. There is a group of them. There's the extremes on both sides. There's the extremes that say complete integration, no fucking regulations, none of that. And then there's the other side, which is wipe out the mutants. You are different than me. You must be exterminated. That's the two extremes you have in the universe, which I do think kind of parallel our own human history with assimilating groups that are in the minority or not part of the mainstream, realistically. And so that line, though, about him saying, hey, the only reason you're allowed to exist is because humanity hasn't kind of figured out how much of a threat you really are. They haven't figured out that, or they haven't at least seen it to where, oh, you could kill everybody and just take the world over. And Magneto, I think, is a good example of that as a character in general, because he does have the power to just kill everyone. He could just, he is essentially invincible. And every weapon that they would use against him has some sort of metal in it. So yes, I know that they've made the plastic guns or whatever before, but like, that doesn't matter. He's just gonna fuck your shit up. Like, everybody has, like, there's iron in your blood. Like, I think it's been proven in issues where he can fucking like do essentially like blood bending from Avatar, because he can just latch on. That's how powerful he is. He can latch onto the iron in your blood and fucking move you like a puppet, which is crazy to think about. And so, yeah, he might be the extreme of the power level that mutants have, because not all mutants have that level of destructive power. But once humanity does figure out, oh shit, these guys could basically enslave us and make us do their bidding, and there's not a goddamn thing we could do about it, we should kill them now before there's too many of them. Like, that's what that phrase that he says is alluding to. And that is going to, I think, become the crux of the show, is going, or the overarching storyline is going to be obviously them trying to gain assimilation and kind of maybe getting it, failing, and then, you know, it's going to be that back and forth tug of war, I guess, on that issue. But yeah, did you have any more to say about that?
Yeah, I just like the part where Guy Ritchie says that we haven't gotten to the point yet, but when mutants gain momentum, humanity will really see the threat, and what that means for us is extinction.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, it is kind of true. Makes a fair case, I will say. So then it's funny to me also that in the midst of, because they end up using Jean Grey with Cerebro, which amplifies her powers and allows them to interrogate Gyrich and get information of where the whereabouts of Bolivar Trask. And in the midst of that, there's flashes of humanity, or rather, there's flashes of the future or maybe parallel timelines. And it's her and Cable, Nathan Summers, their son. And there's it's the Terminator 2 scenario where humanity is building up these massive weapons, these Sentinels. In this imagery, it's the Master Mold, and it says, "I am death," and it just ends up wiping out everybody. And that is the mutually assured destruction of both mutants and humanity. As we see throughout history, that it always ends up this way, that there's these tools that we create to preserve our own existence that end up being turned into weapons. Nuclear energy created the, nuclear bombs, and that is no bueno for us, because that is furthering our own extinction as much as the mutants feel their own. So then they find out where Gyrich is, which is at the Saharan desert. And I love this little interaction between Storm and Wolverine. And Wolverine says something along the lines of, we should get Bolivar Trask and send him in pieces to the UN, to Dr. Cooper. And then Storm says, "No dismembering." And then Wolverine says, "It's just weight loss." Like, I don't know. I just found that line really funny.
Yeah, it's like when Vader tells the bounty hunters, and he goes specifically to Boba Fett, "No disintegrations." Like that's what that reminded me of. No dismembering. Come on, it's just weight loss. And man, Wolverine is a straight menace in this fucking show, man. He is like peak Wolverine, a straight menace to society. He's such a fucking asshole. And we're obviously gonna not talk about it because I've already seen up to episode 5, I think. And man, Wolverine is such a tragic fucking character as well. And like, this is why he's such a prick. This is why he's a fucking asshole, because he's lived for fucking 400 years or however fucking old he is. And he's just experienced loss and fucking horrific events, basically lived through every fucking war that has existed, and been a government experiment, obviously. I mean, just horrific shit. And that's why he's a prick. That's why he's an asshole. But it's like, fuck, man, just when he starts to get something going good for him, it just fucking gets taken away from him. And he's just like, fuck, great. This is bullshit. But yeah, so anyways, wait, where were we at? Yeah, so they go and they basically have a little fucking deal with Trask. They get him, they take him down, as they say. And also, Jean is pregnant, right? And so with obviously with Cyclops' kid, which obviously there is, because Wolverine was like madly in love with her, and then obviously she went with Cyclops, which, knowing what happens later in like the next episode, it really just makes Wolverine it makes it even worse, man. Because, well, I guess we'll get to it, but so essentially that's when they kind of say towards the end of the episode, hey, okay, we're gonna leave the X-Men, me and Cyclops, we're gonna go, and we're gonna leave, and we're gonna raise our son in safety so that we don't have to fucking deal with any of this bullshit and worry about him getting killed or any of this stuff. So everybody's like, oh man, that's sad, blah blah blah, but cool, whatever. And then just as they're kind of doing this, homeboy Magneto rolls up. Does the Magneto fucking swaggy fucking, walking in just like, hello, like, kind of fucking deal. And he basically says, oh, by the way, I am now in charge. of you guys. And then everybody's like, the fuck? What do you mean? And he's like, oh, yes. Xavier, like, pulls out the documents and he's like, oh, yes, here's his last will and testament. And it seems as though control of this academy and the X-Men has now been given to me. And that's where that episode ends with that, leaving you on a straight fucking cliffhanger, which was pretty cool. It was a pretty intense and cool way to like end the episode and be, oh man, now Magneto's in charge. What the fuck? And obviously, as we get into episode number 2, that's where it will be explained or explored further.
I do want to revisit the subject of when they actually encounter Bolivar Trask as they are swarmed by an army of, I don't want to say undead sentinels, but they're all fucked up and not all of them are functioning, but they're countered by them. And man, the fight is wicked awesome. Beast dropping some badass one-liners as he tears into a fucking sentinel and makes it his puppet. He's like, this is the beginning of a beautiful involuntary friendship. And he just starts operating the motherfucker. And then I can't remember if this happened before they fight Master Mold. No, I think this was at when they actually encounter Master Mold. But one thing that I and this is just me looking into it, but when Master Mold is sitting on top of is sitting in the chair, it kind of reminded me of the Lincoln Monument. Well, you know, the way he's sitting down and shit. To think that this thing is put in a similar pose to Lincoln, whereas Lincoln was a symbol of tolerance with, you know, the Civil War and all that shit. And then you have the Master Mold, which is a weapon for intolerance, to be in a similar pose, the juxtaposition. I don't know. It just makes me think along those lines. And one of the cool things that ends up happening, just kind of a cool little thing, is one of the Sentinels says Omega level threat recognized, and it's Storm, as she just wipes out all the mutants, because there are very few mutants that are considered Omega level threats or Omega level mutants. Jean is one of them. Iceman, Storm, Magneto. I forget the other ones, but those are the ones that I can think of at the moment. And then, so after this whole situation is remedied, Dr. Cooper and Cyclops have a conversation, and they give each other a pat on the back and say, job well done, we captured Trask, and that should be the end of our troubles. And then towards the end of the episode, Jean is continuing to push the agenda about living a normal life, moving away from the X-Men. And then that's when the bombshell is dropped that Magneto is part of Xavier's last will to lead the X-Men, and also the fortune that Xavier has. So it's just a very cool episode with a little bit of fight, a little bit of plot development, a little bit of interactions between characters that seemingly don't like each other, like Magneto with the X-Men themselves. But I don't know, it's just a great introductory episode for this franchise. And then we get to episode 2. So if you want to.
Oh yeah, I was looking at this list of the most powerful Omega level threat mutants or whatever, and it's kind of cool, man. They got fucking Powerhouse on here from fucking Fantastic Four. They say he's the most powerful one, allegedly. Fucking Jean Grey's only like number 4. Yeah. I don't know if this list, I don't know how accurate this list is or if it's good or not, but it was just cool to see that fucking little list. There's a lot of Omega level fucking threat mutants.
Yeah, there's there's a
lot. Like, here, this is the Wikipedia page, but yeah, there's quite a few of them. So fucking Magneto Marvel Girl. Oh, that's Jean Grey. Fuck, that's what. Man, that is a dumb name. I don't like that. I don't really like that at all. But anyways, oh yeah, fucking Monarch. That's a cool one. But anyways, all right. So yeah, episode number 2, Mutant Liberation begins. So essentially, Magneto goes on a mission with them or whatever. Or he does something, right? Doesn't he do something? Oh, here. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So the episode it starts off with this Ferris wheel that's fallen apart, or the parts of it are falling apart. And then Magneto makes the save, and everybody's wondering what the hell's going on. This son of a bitch has been troubling humanity for so long. What is going on here? And then he goes on to save some mutants that are in the sewers where they live. I can't remember all the characters' names. They were in the original series. I forgot their names, but they were being tortured by the Friends of Humanity. What a friendly name. Totally not malicious or anything. But man, Magneto talking about how you can't even let these fuckers have the sewers to live in your filth. Like, you can't even let them have that, you sons of bitches. And then he ends up calling them sapiens. And I fucking love that, to say that, this is how I take it. Calling somebody a sapien, of course it's, Homo sapien in humanity, but it feels, the tone in which he's using it is basically calling them, you fucking monkeys. Like, it's so awesome.
Yeah, to me, that is essentially the racial slur that they use for fucking normal humans. Fucking sapien, get out of here, you fucking shitty ass piece of shit sapien. That's what they're using that as the slur, I guess, the negative connotation of the word. And so, yeah, I thought that was cool. That was pretty cool. That, like, the way he did that, man, was just, and then he's kind of explaining, because they're like, everybody's just like, why is he not killing everyone? Why is he not indiscriminately killing the humans? This is odd. I mean, he's not even killing any of those dudes, the Friends of Humanity. And that was like his jam. He loves doing that. And they're like, oh shit. And so they start to look and say, man, maybe Magneto has changed a little bit. And Rogue is starting to get all flustered and hot and bothered. And, what's the word I'm looking for? Hot in the pants for Magneto. You can see it, begin again, I guess, because they were previously in an entanglement, I guess we could call it that. But then that's when the UN comes in and they're gonna they want to arrest fucking Magneto. They're like, oh no, he's here, he's in the public. Oh hell no, he is going straight to jail, son. Do not pass go. Do not collect this mutant money. Your bitch ass is going to jail. And so now, Magneto could have just been, nah, dog, it ain't going down like that, and just fucked all their shit up. But what does he say it like? He says it in the vein of the New Leaf, or how Charles would have wanted it. He says, I'll just let them take me. I'll surrender willingly.
And he's constantly undermining Cyclops, saying that you can't trust. Even though he has turned a new leaf and is following the orders of Charles Xavier, he says, be ready. Okay, I forgot to mention that also. The episode 1 was titled "To Me, My X-Men," which is something that Charles Xavier says. It's also something that Cyclops says as the leader when they initially fight the Sentinels in the Saharan Desert. And to me, it has a double meaning. It's like, you had Cyclops leading the team, and now you have Magneto taking the helm. And the second episode, he's now taking leadership. And now that he's undermining Cyclops, he's saying, I know we're working with these humans, but you still can't trust them. And which is technically true, because when they arrive, Dr. Cooper and these UN armed forces, they show up with weapons specifically for Magneto. And he says, you sons of bitches, what I tell you? what I tell you? And he basically negotiates for himself a trial to be held at the UN headquarters. I think it's, well, I mean, there's multiple ones, but the one in New York, I believe. And he says, if I'm to be treated fairly and if I can, vindicate myself, let me have my trial, because you at least owe me that. If you are people of your word, if humanity is as good as they believe themselves to be, you're going to give me a trial. And naturally, there is conflict amongst the humans who don't believe Magneto deserves a goddamn thing, which was rather interesting to see.
Yeah, it highlights the hypocrisy, because they're talking all this shit about, oh no, we're totally cool with mutants, and we definitely want to assimilate them into society, but then they're like, oh, but not this guy. Nah, this one's different. He doesn't get to have those things. He is so horrific that he doesn't even get the decency of having a trial. It's just straight to the fucking electric chair for you, good buddy. And they have a legit argument about it. And finally, they eventually say, okay, fine. I don't know if they vote or whatever they did, but they eventually say, oh, okay, we're going to let you have your fucking trial then, buddy. And good luck, because you're going straight to the death penalty as soon as you're done with this. And so Magneto starts giving this speech. Did you have any specific things that you wrote down about his speech that he was giving during his defense, by any chance?
Yeah. So the crowd actually begins to get agitated, not only with Magneto, but also the UN, the officials of the UN that are holding this trial, and saying, why are you even giving him a chance? And then Magneto says something along the lines of, for as much good as I do, or for all the efforts you do to comply, it's still not enough. And then he starts, to remedy the situation with the efforts of Cyclops, who is kind of the point person. They're trying to keep out the agitated humans to de-escalate the situation. And then we're introduced to the Executioner, who's using his collars to, if I'm not mistaken, use them to depower the mutants. And Cyclops and him square off, and I think he gets a tag on Bishop. And then within the UN chamber, Storm and Magneto create this force field, or this field of, I don't know, leftover scrap from like the chairs and all this shit. So he makes these spires, and then Storm creates this electric field to keep all these people contained and to remedy the situation. And in the midst of all this, Jean Grey is having her baby, and Wolverine's oh fuck, we got to get to the hospital. So they're driving over to the hospital, and then Cyclops finds out the news about his son being potentially born. So he's got to he's figuring out a way to get out of the UN chambers and to get to his wife as quickly as possible. And and then
that's when they get attacked, right? Is the attack of the Friends of Humanity decide to show up, and their good old buddy leader Executioner is there to do the dirt himself. And he's got this special fucking gun that eliminates, well, I mean, as far as we know right now, eliminates mutant powers. Or it like negates them, or I don't know if it takes them away. We don't know yet. We're still in the early stages of finding out what happens here. But all we know is that he starts blasting. He goes to shoot Magneto, and Storm ends up taking the hit for him. And her powers are just turned off immediately. She's like, what the fuck? Like, and she immediately goes into like PTSD mode. Like, I no longer hear the call of the wind. And then she just fucking just goes straight into fucking freak out mode. And she's done. She's out of the fight. And so I think because then that's when what's his name? Cyclops leaves to go help Jean because she's having the baby. Wolverine, man, I don't want to say that's a cuck move, but dude, man, that sucks to be like he still loves Jean Grey, obviously. And it's like, fuck, man, I'm the only one here to take you to the hospital to deliver the baby that should be mine, but it's not. It's this fucking asshole Cyclops is because you chose him instead. And now I gotta fucking be the one delivering you. So like when he's driving through town and shit, it is pretty funny because he drives like a fucking maniac. He's driving up on the sidewalk. He's fucking hitting fire extinguisher or fire hydrants, blowing shit. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just hauling ass to get there. And then when they get there, the fucking doctor is like, "Oh hey, I'm not doing this. I'm not working on no mutants. Nah, man. Nah, son. You got this all wrong." And so who was with them? Do you remember because there was a mutant that was with them, right?
Yeah, so during this situation, Cyclops and Rogue arrived.
Oh, that's right. It's Rogue, yeah.
So then the doctor says, well, we don't work on mutants because I don't know what could happen. Maybe your powers could go off and we all fucking die. And it's just, xenophobia rhetoric for mutants. And then Rogue comes in with the save. Cyclops tells her, do you think you could steal his knowledge of being a doctor in order to deliver this baby? And then she says, yeah, let me see what I could do about it. And then the baby's born and all is well.
Yeah. But it's funny because Rogue basically reaches into this guy's brain and steals or doesn't steal it, but I don't know. Does she steal the knowledge or does she just copy it? Is it like a copy pasta or is it a cut and paste into your...
She drains people's life force or whatever, but I guess she could steal the knowledge within their mind as well. Like, yeah.
So does he still have the knowledge or does she take it from him?
No, it's just
copy paste. Yeah, it's copy pasta, right? Okay. So and then when she does that, she's like, nurse, give me this and this, that. And like she uses all the lingo. And it was pretty funny. I was like, oh man, that's that's cool as hell. So yeah, they deliver the baby. Basically it's all good. They name him Nathan. Then that's when Magneto takes Executioner into custody, and the trial, because he saves the whole UN fucking jury. No, not jury, but what were they, like the judges or whatever? He takes them up into fucking space basically, so they don't get fucked up. And he basically gives this long speech about, oh man, like I could kill you guys right now if I wanted to, I could just end this now. But again, in the spirit of what Charles Xavier wanted, that's not who I am now. Charles, he kind of says a little bit about Charles and how he was his best friend. And he's like, even though we didn't see eye to eye on this one specific issue, he was still like the best friend I ever had. And I'm going to honor his memory. And if he wants me to take over the X-Men and run the X-Men, I will do it to the best of the ability that I can do to honor his legacy or whatnot. And so that's when they come back down, and he basically said the UN pardons him for all of his crimes. And then they start talking about the solo mutant nation of Genosha becoming a member of the UN. And that's the further theme later on in the next couple episodes. Well, we're not going to get to those today, but when we get to those, that's another further theme that is they're trying to get a seat at the table. And I think that's probably the right way to do it, to show the humans, hey man, we're not here to take your shit over. We just want to be in on it, man. Can we just have that? And yeah, they do. They say, cool, we'll go ahead and make that happen. And so, or they're starting to get to that point where they're going to do it. So then that's when Beast, they're in the lab. It's like that fucking, it's like Dr. Dre. He's back in the lab and he's fucking doing all the work, and he's fucking working. And then it's Beast, and he's in there, he's doing all the work. And then they're trying to figure out about Storm and like what the deal is. And he basically says, listen, this is still preliminary. I'm not 100%. Don't freak out. All right. Promise not to freak out. But this might be permanent. I don't think we can fix this. And so then Storm really fucking gets like in a deep depression. And then she decides that, well, she's going to leave. She says, fuck this, I'm out. So she writes a little note to Jean, fucking leaves. And then after, when they go out to try to look for her, who do they see coming out of the woods? Another fucking Jean Grey. And they're like, who the fuck is this bitch? And that's the cliffhanger that the episode ends on, is you see Jean Grey 2.0 muttering things. And I forget who the fuck she was asking for. Was she asking for Wolverine? I feel like, I don't remember who it was. I thought she was asking for somebody.
She just said the X-Men.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's where the episode ends. Oh, sorry. Here, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go over a few things.
Yes.
Man, Magneto drops some fucking lines because the UN is basically condemning Magneto for all the things that he's done to humanity. But he says, yeah, for all the things that you guys, for all the things that I've done, I only did it because this is retribution for my people. And his whole speech is basically that he experienced this as a Jew in the Holocaust, and then he experienced it when the oppressors, basically saying that Germans and the Jews like turned against him because he was a mutant.
Yeah.
And he says the oppressed become the oppressors. And I fucking love that line. And then just before they get invaded, he says something along the lines of, oh, we're never good enough. And then he says, as I've said a million times before, never again, to say that he's never going to experience tragedy in the way he experienced it as a victim of the Holocaust and as a mutant, which was really cool. And my favorite fucking line was when they're floating above the world and they're looking down, and he says, Xavier told me to have this view to share, to say that this is a shared world. We need to coexist. You don't have to like us. You don't have to fuck with us. You just have to accept that we're going to exist on this planet. And then one of the coldest lines is he looks over, he says, he calls each person one thing. He says bigot, ingrate, sycophant, and he calls fucking executioner a fucking worm, which I love to death. And then he says, what is it? So small, I could smite you with a step. And he's fucking hovering over him like, you son of a bitch. And man, what else was there?
When he says that, when he says worm, the way he says it with such contempt and disgust, and it's like he's saying the things about each one of them, and the camera is essentially showing each one of them. And then when he gets to Executioner, it's like it shows him turning to look, and then it's just that look on his face, and he just says worm. Oh, that was so good, man.
And lastly, the one that topped it all, as he's going to release them and return them back to Earth. Do not make me let you down. Do not let me. What does he say?
He says something along the lines of "Do not make me let you down." Yeah, like by saying essentially, don't make me regret this. Number one, and number two, if you fucking fuck with me, I will fail in what I have said I'm set out to do. So don't make me do it. Basically,
and then on top of that, the triple entendre is that he could literally drop them and kill all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So good.
This to me was one of the, I know it's only 2 episodes that we watched, but man, episode 2 took the fucking cake as far as the conflict within the episode, Magneto dropping some gangster quotes, the X-Men holding it down, trying to de-escalate a situation, not trying to resort to violence, but trying to, resort to reason. And then good old buddy Morph uses his morphing abilities to shoehorn some classic X-Men characters that you may love: Colossus, Psylocke, and I forgot who the third person was. I think I wrote it down. Let's see. Yeah, I already forgot what it was, but they tease Gambit's suspicion about the affair between Magneto, or the kindling of Rogue and Magneto's relationship. Storm, no longer a mutant. And one of the saddest parts of the episode is when she's actually afraid of lightning, something that she used to command. Very, very interesting dynamic there to show something that made her powerful. Now she is very human, experiencing the forces of nature as a human being. And then, of course, one of the cool things about Wolverine and Morph and their interaction is Wolverine is kind of distraught with Storm leaving. So then Morph, being the good buddy that he is, good buddy Morph, turns into Sabretooth with some beer so that they can have a little scuffle. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that was like a cool little Easter egg. And it's like, because, Sabretooth is like his brother. So he's like, hey, man. And also, Sabretooth is dead, right? At this point, I think.
Honestly, I don't remember, but yeah, Sabretooth and Wolverine being the hated, I don't know what you want to call it, but they both hate each other, but they kind of respect each other, and it's a very complicated relationship.
Yeah, it's like they're legit. I mean, they're brothers, but like it is like a truly brotherly relationship because they hate each other, but they love each other, but they respect each other, but they also want to kill each other. So doing that, it's like, ah, man, cool. Let's drink some beers and fight for a little bit. Yeah, and Wolverine fucking loved it. So that was a cool little Easter egg that they threw in there. Yeah, dude, these first two episodes were fucking straight fire, and I've seen all the way up to episode 5, and I can say this, it only gets better. I don't know how far, if you watched any further, if you just watched the first two, but it just progressively gets more insane as this show goes on. And I hope that's indicative of this, what it's going to be. And I'm sure they're probably only going to do like 12 episodes or so. I think it says down here 10. I mean, they have 10 episodes kind of set to drop. We should probably be caught up. I think the last episode comes out May 15th, it looks like. So I'm sure we will likely be caught up to that point by then, because we're doing 2 a week. So, I mean, we were 3 and 4 next week, and then 5 and 6 the week after that. And then, yeah, so it'll all be out by the time we get there. So, but yeah, I have high hopes for this series currently. And I think that this is going to be a fucking excellent show. We'll talk about that other shit when we get to 3 and 4. But yeah, it's fucking looking real good for me.
Dude, if there was anything that any group of people should watch about the series, watch fucking I would dude, I would say Netanyahu should watch episode 2 to see exactly the path that they should be avoiding. Magneto is the character that is a walking contradictory, somebody that experienced one of the worst things in humanity, and then to inflict it upon other people, can't see. I mean, I think he does see it, but he ignores it because it's if I don't do these things, it's extinction for us. It's self-preservation, right? And you kind of have to respect it, because I mean, the X-Men or mutants in general are already a minority, but it just sucks because this is very much in parallel with what's going on with Israel and Palestine, is that Israelis and Jews were once in that situation, and now they're opting to inflict that damage onto another group of people. And episode 2 is like everything that people should be looking at. God damn it, the X-Men are fucking relevant, dude. They're so fucking good. Greatest IP that Marvel has, hands down. Hands fucking down. This is a cautionary tale of what humans can do to people or things or whatever you want to call it. And I think I have to say that Israelis have to look into this episode because maybe they'll see things from a different perspective if they watch fucking X-Men.
Yeah, that is definitely true. X-Men is more relevant now than it's ever been. And what's crazy is they were probably writing these episodes way before any of this shit happened. Because it takes like fucking a year to get these animated episodes fucking up and ready to go. Even longer, probably. So they've probably been writing this shit for like a couple of years. And man, it is so good. It's right now, so far, it's 10 out of 10. And obviously, we're not giving an official score yet, but for me, this is on track to fucking potentially be a 10 out of 10. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as the time goes on, but it's looking that way.
Yeah, dude. It's so hard to entertain so many goddamn thoughts because there's so many things to pull away from the X-Men themselves to be a metaphor or a placeholder for any minority group, whether, you know, you're brown, black, you know, Asian, African American, from other parts of the world, you know, another country, different sexes, you know, whatever you identify as for, you know, sexual orientation or sexual identity, man. Like this is the greatest lesson that humanity could provide is the fucking X-Men, dude. I love this series. Goddamn.
Yeah, and I will say this too, that there was a lot of people that were talking shit at the beginning of when this first came out saying, oh, X-Men's it's woke now or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, say what you want about that, whether it ruins things or it doesn't. But I don't think that sort of thing really applies to the X-Men, just because that's kind of what it's always been about. It's always kind of just been about racism and not being accepted for who you are. And essentially, they're the outcasts of society. So obviously, it's going to lean to people who feel that way, that they feel outcasts from society. So it doesn't matter what the reason is. You're still going to gravitate towards that. But yeah, I really fucking like this show so far. And I also fucking think Gambit is the best. I love Gambit, man. That's always been my favorite X-Man is fucking Gambit. I don't know why. I just fucking love that. Maybe because he's, you know, ginger-ish, but I fucking love me some Gambit. It is, he's my favorite. He's always been my favorite. And I think that, you know, we'll see what happens with this show. But anyways, I was just saying how much I love Gambit. And
why? I
don't know, man. Gambit's just always been my favorite X-Man for some reason. Like, I just really like him. I don't know why. I always liked him as a character. I loved fucking playing as him in the video game. Like, there was only just that. Like, you can't play him a lot in video games. Like, he's not one of the characters that's mainly featured. But you can play him. And I just love the fucking the cards and I don't know, man. I just love that character, and he's like fucking Cajun and shit. So I don't know. It's just a cool ass character, and so far I'd say that's probably that's for sure my favorite X-Man. Just even from when I was a kid, and even to this day. And it's nice to see him in a series that, you know, is highlighting him as a main character, not some fucking side story. And I'm still pissed that we didn't get an actual live action Gambit movie for real. You know, I think that's something that they should still fucking do. Anyways, go ahead.
I have to say, hands down, best character for me, as if it weren't obvious enough, is definitely Magneto, dude. I think the word is pomposity, pompousness.
Mm-hmm.
To think that he's above humanity, which is ironic because it very much is of the similar note of the Nazis, not understanding the parallels that his rhetoric is almost Nazi-like. It's fucking crazy, dude. He's such a walking contradiction, and now he has to abide by Charles Xavier's last will. So he's got to restrain himself. He's trying to understand the vision of Charles Xavier because his methods actually worked. It created a more welcoming world for the mutants as a result of his assassination. So he understands that, but he still has to grasp that, or rather, he still has his resentment towards humanity, but he's trying to come back towards the middle so that he can meet them halfway. But yeah, this was such a great episode, and yeah, these 2 episodes are just nothing but bangers. And I know I'm just probably talking in circles, but I gotta say this. I'm enthusiastic to see how these other 8 episodes play out, because these 2 that we just watched were bangers.
Yeah, great intro to the series, and a great intro to people that maybe don't necessarily know, that didn't watch it, because there's going to be a large segment of the population that didn't see the original X-Men back in 1997. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that there's probably some people that are watching this that weren't even alive in 1997. So this was a good introductory episode to them and to us as the old guard, or the old fans, I guess you could say, at the same time. So it captured everything perfectly. And yeah, I'm excited for it. And this is going to be fucking awesome. I'm really glad we decided to fucking look and check out this series and do shows, do a podcast about it, or talk about it on the podcast, because it's fucking great. Anyways, you got anything else to add?
No, that's pretty much it. And yeah, look forward to doing more episodes. I only wish that this thing was 52 or 26 episodes, but I understand that doing 2D animation is not something that is done typically these days. But goddamn, let me add one more thing. It is nice to see 2D animation once more, dude. There's some type, I don't know how to describe it, but the fluidity of the animation, because there's something about Adobe Flash or whatever the fuck they're using to animate things where there's like elastic movement. When they move, it kind of stretches, and I know how they kind of do it, but them drawing shit, what I imagine is drawing shit by hand, man, it's just nice to see that shit again, because we haven't had that in probably, I don't know, maybe 20 years. I can't remember the last animated 2D movie that we've had besides, I guess with the exception of like anime still being hand drawn and shit. I mean, I think Treasure Planet was probably like the last Disney project that was 2D animation. And dude, there was a real cool balance between using 3D models and 2D animation back in the day with Atlantis, with Disney, and then Treasure Planet. That mix looked fucking sweet. And they haven't revisited that in God knows how long, because ever since then it's been 3D models and weird 2D animation that isn't really hand drawn and shit. I just, there has to be a real appreciation for hand drawn shit, because it's been gone for so long.
Yeah, I agree, and it fucking looks great, and yeah, it's gonna be fucking sweet. Treasure Planet was fucking sweet, man. We should fucking do a review of Treasure Planet, because I haven't seen that movie in fucking probably 20 years. But I mean, I love that movie; it's so good. So maybe we'll have to do that one of these days, just to fuck around. Fuck, it'd be cool if we could get the theater to play it. We could all go watch it in the theater. That'd be pretty sweet. So, anyways, awesome. All right, well, fucking A, I guess that's the end of the episode. So, thank you guys for listening. And, you know, if you didn't hear the cheap plug at the beginning, you can hear a funny 1930s radio guy say it at the end of this episode. So, you know, if you didn't hear it, or you skipped through the original cheap plug, maybe stick around and hear that. And then you can find out where to follow us and check all our shit out at GameRageMagazine.com and all the other things. And also, before we go, now that we've done a full episode with this conch, how do you feel about the conch?
It's hard passing it around. We might have to do something different where we just place this thing on the table and we just touch it when we want to go, so that we don't have to hold it and shit.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's a noticeable gap in between when we're talking, and it kind of ruins the flow a little bit. So I think you're right. I think we'll have to put it on the table, and then just we talk, and then when you want to say something, if I'm talking, you touch it, and then I will, okay, go ahead. And then if I want to talk while you're saying something, I'll touch it, and then you say, oh, go ahead, and then I can just start talking, because passing it is taking too much time. But this was a good experiment. I mean, you know, that's what we're doing here. We're just experimenting. Well, not with each other, but, you know, with things. You know what I mean? All right? So, anyways, fucking... All right, yeah, this is the end of the episode. Goodbye. Oh, hey there, buddy. It's me, 1930s announcer guy, here to congratulate you on making it through this episode.
As our heroes are getting in their jalopies and riding off into the literal sunset, they wanted me to tell you thanks for listening to their radio broadcast, and should you be so kind as to follow them on some fancy schmancy radio station publication called Instagram and TikTok at Game Range Magazine, and on some other thing called Twitter/X at Game Range Mag. Also, they wanted me to inform you and ask if you could be so kind again as to visit something called a website at www.GameRageMagazine.com. I don't know what that is, buddy, but you should probably go do those things. And, don't forget to tune in next time to the Game Rage Movies and TV radio broadcast.